Mike, this is as surprising as news as it can get in the NFL, especially the timing of the departure of Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, getting rid of both of them along with their CEO and Rich McKay. How surprised were you when you read the news that you did right after the Falcons finished out their season?
I'd say I was semi-shocked. I mean, I think we were all kind of thought it might be a coin flip towards the end of the year. And you built that steam down the last part of the season. And so when you win four in a row, I think anybody looks at it and goes, oh, okay, they're building on something. Particularly when you look at a couple of the record-setting trajectories they were on. The defense getting all the sacks, obviously down the stretch run, setting the franchise record for sacks, and obviously Bijan Robinson and his yards from scrimmage and all the stuff that he was able to pile up offensively. So there was some really positive components of the second half of this season, but when you saw this come down on Sunday night, it was clear to me and clear to pretty much everybody that this was a decision that was made a long time ago, probably even before this four-game winning streak was started.
Yeah, two straight losing seasons for Raheem, five straight for Terry Fontenot. Never had a winning season in his tenure as the general manager. And when a GM does get let go, it's a really big deal. What sign does that indicate for everyone here in Atlanta?
Well, I think that it means that we're probably not as close to being a Super Bowl contender as a lot of people might be led to believe. I think that it is a talented roster, but I think that when you look at how all these pieces were placed together, they don't really match from the top to the bottom. You have a pocket quarterback. You have an offensive line that's built to kind of move around and built on athleticism. You had a wide receiver core that really lacked explosion, and a lot of things kind of centered around Bijan Robinson. And so I think that Terry did a nice job of bringing pieces in that might fit a lot of football teams, but just never quite matched up to what we really needed here with the Atlanta Falcons. And you know as well as I do that when you don't get the quarterback position right, which Terry Fontenot never did, your time is limited in the NFL as a general manager, and we saw that come to a close.
Whoever the head coach is going to be next, they do walk into a tricky situation, as you mentioned. Who knows if Kirk Cousins is going to be here? Who knows when Michael Penix Jr. comes back and how healthy he will be when he gets back? What kind of a challenge does that present for the next guy in charge?
I think it's massive. As a matter of fact, I think that it would cause any head coaching candidate to possibly take pause and maybe consider what all jobs are out there. I think that you look at other situations where there might be a quarterback in place or somebody they really believe in with these other franchises, and that might be a better destination for some people. I think that when you look at this coming season, the 2026 season for the Atlanta Falcons, you either have to pay a ton of money to Kirk Cousins, you have to save a little bit of money with Kirk Cousins and find a bridge quarterback, or you just have to wipe the slate clean and say, hey, let's all start from scratch here and build something from the ground up. That's going to be something for the new head coach, the new GM, and the new, forthcoming president of football operations. They'll all have to decide. And so you want to make sure that you find pieces, like I said a minute ago, to all match up from the top on down. The quarterback's going to be the center point of that entire discussion.
No first round pick either, because James Pierce Jr. was the Falcons' first round pick. Terry Fontenot dealt that away. Of course, they get a lot of production in James Pierce Jr. However, when you're rebuilding, you'd really like to have that first round pick back. Now, going back to the head coaching position, what do you think would be a good fit here in Atlanta?
Well, I think when you look at offenses around the NFL that have done more with some mismatching pieces than you would have probably imagined. I look at Clint Kubiak up in Seattle. They're the first overall seed in this year's NFL playoffs. I know a lot of people look at Mike McDaniel, the former, Atlanta guy that grew up here and was able to really move on and do some nice things in the NFL. Clint Kubiak's done an incredible job with that offense. So I look at a guy like that, somebody that's been in multiple situations, somebody that can get the most out of the quarterback position, and somebody that can really bring this offense into a new age. I think that what we saw under Zach Robinson over the last couple of years, just pure pocket passing, almost a 7-on-7 style in the passing game that really didn't match up with the run game. Bring somebody in who really sees that new style of offense in the NFL, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of eye candy, and somebody that can get the most out of a lot of this talent we've built up over the last few years.
Okay, you mentioned the future president of football operations. A lot of people do believe it's going to be your former teammate and your former quarterback in Matt Ryan. What would Matt Ryan in the front office look like?
Well, I think he'd probably be a little bit tougher on people than fans might imagine, and I think that Matt, rightfully so, has built up this image in Atlanta of being this kind-hearted guy and somebody that's really friendly, and that's he's a great teammate, one of the smartest guys I was ever around. Just as likely to scream at you on the field as buy you a beer afterwards, and so I think that when I look at this opportunity, if it is Matt Ryan in that role, that he's going to be a guy that, don't rule anything out. I don't think he's going to be coming in ready to make friends. I think he understands what good football looks like. I think he understands how good football teams are built. And so even if you're, friends with him or you know him inside of this organization and he's been friendly with you, does not mean that your job will be safe. I will be interested to see how he goes about his business and, does some of the things, particularly when you talk about players, guys like Jake Matthews that date back to times when Matt Ryan was the quarterback here. So I think he'll have a vision. I think the best part about it, if Matt is in that role, is that Matt is going to do what's best for the organization from the top down. It's not going to be, oh, I have to draft this guy to try to save my job, or I have to try to win this game to save my job, or bring this player in to save my job. Matt's going to have the organization at the forefront throughout his tenure if he is instilled in that role with the franchise. So I think it'll be a great thing. Matt's the guy for the job. Count me in. All thumbs up for Matt Ryan. I love the guy. He was a great teammate, and he'd do great things for the organization.
I think what you're describing has been missing from this Falcons organization for a long time. So that would be a very good piece to the puzzle. Mike, one more question for you. This is somewhat surprising by Arthur Blank, who has not been known to make moves such as this, moving on from a coach after just 2 years. And also, when there is some promise, you mentioned the 4 games that they won out the rest of the year, he completely abandoned ship, and now it's a clean slate here in Atlanta. He doesn't do that often. How surprised were you that Arthur Blank made all of these moves at the same time?
Well, I think it's tough. I think, look, there's a saying that goes around the NFL: "You are what your record says you are." Right. So when you say, okay, they're 8-9, they tied for at the top of the division in a 3-way tie, they just didn't get there because the tiebreaker. I think that's kind of false hope. I don't think this is a good division. I don't think a lot of the teams that the Falcons played this year and were able to beat were good teams. I think when you look at the overall record, and really this is what did it for me, when you look at how the Falcons fared against other coaches that Arthur Blank met and interviewed just 2 years ago along with Raheem Morris. I'm talking about Mike McDonald. I'm talking about Mike Vrabel. Some of the other names kind of thrown in those places. I think they're head scratchers. Even on down to Aaron Glenn, who's the head coach of the New York Jets. You look at Aaron Glenn in that situation, and Aaron Glenn is a guy that had no business beating the Atlanta Falcons, Raheem Morris, this year, and he was able to get it done. So I think that no matter what the record was, no matter what the win streak was, this team's not as close as previously believed to winning a Super Bowl. And I think that Arthur Blank just said, you know what, now or never, let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and get some guys in here that we think can push towards a trophy.